I'm making a video game with underwater mechanics. In this devlog, key binding prompts on the UI, tutorial updates, coral level decoration, bug fixes, credit updates, Steam setup. Don't Drown can now be wishlisted on Steam. Feel free to join the playtest if you want to give it a shot. I found an asset that supported what I wanted to use, but unfortunately required a higher version of Unity. I decided to use it as inspiration to also build a similar system, looking at how the asset did things in order to research those topics. The first thing I wanted to figure out was how to display images in text. Fortunately, TextMesh Pro supports this, and I found a tutorial by Christina Creates Games that explained things. As a learning exercise, I set up a sprite sheet and a button that would load all the sprite names and images in a text box. I followed another tutorial by Christina Creates Games on displaying button prompts. For my case, I also typed the text to regenerate when the input changes. With this basic knowledge, I implemented a generic system for my game. I started by displaying the sprite name that should match an input in plain text, dynamically updating based on the active device. With the sprite name available, I updated that component to fill in a hard-coded sprite tag. I also added support for both Xbox and PlayStation icons. Using that same system, I updated the keybind and control panels to use icons instead of text. For the keyboard movement, I had to add special logic for the composite bindings. This system also works after rebinding keys, as it should. For the gamepad panel, I set up the buttons to reload the icon based on controller type. Once everything worked, I updated the baseline on the sprites so they would align to the center. Then, I updated the tab icons, which already displayed the version of the text for the active control scheme. With all the setup working, I refactored the system to support retrieving the sprite for any input binding. The dynamic version of the input system builds on top of Christina's setup and supports looking up multiple binding paths. The system uses a regular expression to match the replaceable texts. It also takes a device to find the correct sprite sheet. Then, it finds an input binding based on the action name and replaces any text with a correct sprite tag. Using this utility, I created a new mono behavior that would take a text template and overwrite the value of a TextMesh Pro component with the replaced text. I updated the tab components first again, since they were the easiest. Since the leaderboards panel also uses a tab component, I worked on its icons next. Then, the World Maps leaderboard icon was updated to use the same system. Afterwards, I updated the Level Complete panel to also have icons. The Death Screen panel was also updated to support icons. Since it didn't have input bindings before, those were also created. To keep things consistent, the General panel also uses the same input bindings for those actions. With the ability to display bindings on the UI, I gave some updates to the tutorial. Since the oxygen bar increased in size, the highlight effect was updated to cover it properly. I updated one of the tutorial hints to display the icon just to ensure everything fit contrast-wise. Then, I checked that the system could handle multiple icons in one text. I then added a custom system for the movement hint, since it has to display either one or two sprites depending on the control scheme. I also double-checked that changing bindings would update the text in the UI to the new binding. I also checked that the composite hint would handle switching between gamepad and keyboard. I added a section that also teaches you the map hotkey. For the last test, I ran through the tutorial using an Xbox controller to ensure things looked right. Since I'll be making more levels, I wanted to create a tool that behaved like the Project Explorer but was filtered to only show the props. Having made a couple of editors before, I took a look at what the Odin Inspector could help me do since I bought it during a Unity sale. The table matrix example looked like what I wanted in terms of functionality with drag and drop. The asset list attribute example showed me how to get the data I wanted, so I played around with that a bit. In the end, I had to make my own version that populated a list matrix with the help of the asset database. I ended up creating a tagging system so I could filter assets based on these tags. Using the tab group attribute, I built 3 different tabs that contained all the props. Here it is in action. With the tool ready to go, I went through each level and added props. I also fixed some minor visual issues. For the second level, I fixed some diagonal tiles so they wouldn't have square corners. Then I added some decorations. The third and fourth level didn't have any glaring visual problems, so I only spent time decorating them. The fifth level also had a corner piece that was out of place, so I fixed that. Like the previous levels, it also received decorations. The sixth level had a couple of visual issues. I had to fix the same kind of visual problem with the corners. I missed out on placing some filler tiles, so there was a gap in the middle of the level. Then, I added decorations around the edges of the level. I also added a decoration in the middle, and I ensured a chest could be visible if you dropped a chest there. While playtesting things, I found a bug that broke the World Map's pause menu after exiting a level. This was due to a previous instance of the World Map Manager receiving events for the pause action since I used the wrong event when unregistering. Changing the event to the correct one fixed that bug. Since only one action map is active at a time, the duplicate event may not be needed. The difficulty settings carousel did not allow clicking on the arrows to change difficulty. This was due to the parent object receiving the event instead of the arrows. After implementing a pointer down and pointer click event, this bug was resolved. The fourth level in the first world also suffered from the sprite gaps bug, so I used the workaround of adding a longer sprite to fix it. With the second world complete, I took time to update the credit scene to be in line with the rest of the UI. Then I added a level selection button on the world map for the credits as well. Having received the Steam assets for the game, I prepared the store page. Thanks to this video by Aro, I was able to get a playtest app published to Steam. To celebrate this milestone, a playtest of Don't Drown is available on Steam. I would love it if you gave it a chance and left me some feedback. If you want to support me in this endeavor, please add Don't Drown to your wishlist. As always, thank you for taking time to watch these devlogs. That's it for this devlog. My focus for the next part will be design the tiles for the third world, design the movement mechanics for a new enemy. Until next time.